Hey kiddies, it's Triple Feature Tuesday once again, and this week we're going to look at the I Have Abandonment Issues with My Awesome Bearded Scientist Father triple feature. That's right, these are three movies in which our main character has an estranged relationship with his father, who is, has a beard, is a scientist, and is generally awesome. It's, I love it when you can find like such hyper-specific themes for triple features. It just gets me all excited. So our menu is going to include Lost in Space, the movie, Tron Legacy, and Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. This might come as a shock, but most people did not like the Lost in Space movie. I did though. I just liked it. I'm sorry, for all the reasons that, anybody ever likes a movie, I enjoyed this. I thought the story was good, I thought the characters were compelling, the acting was decent. Across the board, no, but, the weaker parts of the cast were balanced out by the stronger parts of the cast. And before you say anything, no, Matt LeBlanc was one of the stronger parts. I thought that was a really good turn. Action hero Joey Tribbiani. It was pretty damn good. But for our triple feature purposes, we're going to focus on the relationship between Will and Professor John Robinson, played by Jack Johnson and William Hurt, respectively. Will is a genius. For his science fair, he builds the beginnings of what will eventually turn out to be a fully functioning time travel device. And he wins first prize, as he seems to win all the time, but Dad, not there, because Professor John Robinson is busy trying to build a spaceship and a teleportation contraption that's going to, save all of humanity. So, on the one hand, you want to give it to Professor Robinson for, having a lot on his plate. On the other, it's your son. Just make a little bit of time. Just a little bit of time. That's all it takes. And what's fun is that while there's all the high adventure and craziness that you'd want in a movie about a family lost in space, alien critters, betrayals, Gary Oldman as Dr. Smith was just an inspired choice, and he just lives it up. It's really, really a lot of fun. All throughout the movie, this subplot of Will and John Robinson's relationship is weaved in to every little aspect of it, but not in a hit you in the head with a hammer sort of way. So it just kind of works, and it all comes together fairly seamlessly when the Robinsons end up in a possible future in which all of Will's abandonment issues are brought to the fore with the older kind of dystopian Will Robinson, played by Jared Harris of all people, with a dubbed-in American accent, because apparently Jared couldn't do a good enough American accent at this point. But it all comes together pretty well, and William Hurt, he's just William Hurting it all over the place, just being slightly off kilter, but kind of cool the whole time. It's just like, it's that kind of scientist dork cool, where it's just like, you're not sure, is he being a dork, or is he being a cool, the William Hurt thing. Have you ever seen Altered States? If not, see Altered States. Watch Altered States and then watch this one, because it's kind of a funny little William Hurt mad scientist double feature. All throughout this triple feature, we're going to be looking at the beards and the hair situation overall. William Hurt, very thick, lustrous beard. Alas, as far as I know, William Hurt has been bald as hell for quite some time, but his toop game is on point. It's like, it's reserved. It's not really going too nuts and pretending like his hairline's out here or anything. It's just there, and it's unobtrusive, and it looks natural, but, there's enough hair there so he can be a bit more action hero-y as, the plot requires. So, yeah, good on you, bearded scientist William Hurt in Lost in Space. Next up, we have Tron Legacy. The sequel to Tron, 28 years after anybody stopped caring. Well, almost anybody. We got a sequel to Tron, man! Why do people not care about that? Other than the fact that the movie was kind of not good. Visually, stunning, striking, love the production design for this thing. Casting, great. Soundtrack, Daft Punk, it was beyond, but God, that movie made no goddamn sense whatsoever. with the original Tron, you can sort of lie to yourself and say, well, I don't really know how a computer works, so maybe this is what the inside of it looks like, and or how it theoretically could be, as viewed through a sci-fi bent. But it was 2010. We know computers now, and God damn it, it didn't make any sense, and it had no stakes whatsoever. I mean, at least in the first one, if the Master Control Program won, it was going to, launch nukes just for shits and giggles, but no. So, all that said, I still can't bring myself to not like that movie wholeheartedly. I just love it. In part because I thought Garrett Hedlund did a good job as Sam, son of Flynn, Kevin Flynn, played by Jeff Bridges. Whew. So, our arbitrary reasons for why the story hadn't continued right after, when everybody was still young. Kevin Flynn got trapped inside the computer for 20 years. Thus, Sam grew up without a father, kind of bitter and angry, but, still kind of well-adjusted. Like, he's angry enough, but he's not letting it destroy his life. He's just, amusingly wasting it. But then he gets stuck in the computer, too, and meets up with his father. Wait, it's not his father. It is Clue, the CGI approximation of Kevin Flynn 20 years ago that looks like a scary mannequin with the deadest eyes. Voiced by Jeff Bridges, doing a fairly good approximation of his voice from 20 years ago, but portrayed by a fit body double. But, with a CGI head. But then he eventually meets up with the real Kevin Flynn, who has been trapped and has aged and just looks very Moses-like. It's just pretty. There's a lot of Chuck Heston in the look of Kevin Flynn 20 years later, 20 years after living on the grid in the wild. And it works. A lot of people saw this and just thought he was just doing, a computery version of the dude. But no, if you go back and really watch the original Tron, Kevin Flynn really just is Jeff Bridges, and Jeff Bridges is just doing Jeff Bridges throughout this whole movie. Can we distinguish that from the dude? It depends on the day and how high he got before he got onto camera, but I like to think that Jeff Bridges did a good job. And, I mean, of all the three father figures in our movie, he is the only one sporting all of his own hair, and it's just amazing. I mean, the beard and the hair. Again, I don't compare him to Chuck Heston Moses lightly because he just looks amazing. Oh, you get a lot of interesting stuff with the father-son abandonment issues because you have the very direct one of Sam Flynn trying to reunite with his father, meeting up with, the worst version of what he thought his father would be, because Clue, when he was created, was just Kevin Flynn's ambition and desire to create the perfect system. So there is very much, this is the nightmare scenario. He imagined his father abandoning him and being this guy. And then when he meets his actual father again, it's, tepid and unsure because Kevin Flynn's gone totally zen out of desperation to try to survive in this situation. But at the same time, Clue also has abandonment issues with his father because Clue got a little overzealous in trying to execute what Kevin Flynn wanted him to. There's actually a lot of interesting biblical parallels throughout the whole thing. If you look at Sam as sort of the Christ figure and Clue as sort of the Lucifer figure. He could just as easily have been called Clucifer for the amount of abandonment and trying to do what his God had willed him to do, and then to be pushed aside for, these Sam or these stupid isomorph things. We're not going to talk about them. That Kevin deemed was better. And, everybody ends up paying the price to a certain extent. But, like I said, the story doesn't make any goddamn sense whatsoever, but it's, everybody's acting their hearts out. They got Bruce Boxleitner back to be both Alan Bradley and the voice of Tron for a little bit. Rinsler turns out to be Tron, and he's played to great effect by Anis Cherfoy, who I talked about in the Black-Clad Binary Badasses triple feature, which you should go back and watch because that one was just awesome, as was Tron Legacy. A lot of good times in Tron Legacy, but not a great movie. Not at all. Especially not in comparison to the end of our triple feature, which is Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade. And it's one of those things where it's so rare that sequels end up being better than the first ones, or at least on par with. And Last Crusade might be better than Raiders of the Lost Ark. One day I'm just going to have to sit down and determine, like, watch them back to back over and over and over again and determine which one is better. But I mean, because what it really comes down, the argument for Last Crusade always comes down to, well, it's everything that Raiders of the Lost Ark had, and Sean Connery. And man, Sean Connery adds to your movie. So we have Indiana Jones and Henry Jones Sr., played by Harrison Ford and Sean Connery. Fun fact, they are maybe 10 years apart in age. But we have the father-son issues, like right from the beginning, with the really great flashback opening sequence with River Phoenix playing young Indiana Jones prior to the Chronicles. We hear Professor Jones's voice, but we don't see him, which sets up the sense of them not being together on anything, which is just great right from the start. And then half of the movie is trying to find Henry Jones, and then the other half of the movie is, trying to fulfill his lifelong dream and or repair the bond between Indiana and Henry. There's such great back and forth scenes with Sean Connery and Harrison Ford throughout the whole movie that it elevates what just would be a great action movie into one of the greatest action movies ever made, because you can't beat it when there's this much character and good dialogue, well acted throughout the whole thing. Another great little bit to keep in mind the next time you watch it is when they have like the big heart-to-heart talk about Indiana's childhood on the Zeppelin. You'll note you only see them from about here up. That's because the lights and everything were so hot on the Zeppelin that it was too hot for them to wear all of their clothes. So they're both sitting at the table having this big conversation without pants. I love this shit. I mean, honestly, who else could you get to play Indiana Jones's father but James Bond? It works, even though it was like the British versus American thing, and also kind of complicating it is Indiana Jones is a pulp hero that would inspire the James Bond types of characters that would come, and then everything's going backwards. But it's all a big delightful mess that I love. And in terms of Sean Connery's hair status, Sean Connery's been bald since the first James Bond movie. He's always wearing a toque of different, with varying levels. I don't think he's wearing one in this one. I think he's going all natural. But his beard game, totally on point. The salt and pepper, and it's fun because it can go from like a fuddy-duddy old professor beard to like a big action hero beard. By the end of it, it's just really, really great. If you don't like it, you better just make your peace with it, because I think the last like 10-15 minutes, every other shot is a close-up on Sean Connery's face as he's, dying and Indy's trying to get the Holy Grail. And, you'll just keep hearing penitent over and over in your head as, after you watch it. It's so good. But yeah, all of these guys had abandonment issues with their awesome bearded scientist father. Yes, archaeology is a science. Look it up. Shut up. You don't know. By the end of the movie, I think they've all kind of worked through it to great success, and there are a hell of a lot of happy endings for everybody. So go forth, watch those, and I'll see you guys next week as I, continue to play with my Tron disc.